I have recently made the decision to cut out a toxic relationship from my life. I've finally done it. I've finally done it after, countless times of being disappointed by them and them trying to, let me give them another chance, and then I would go into it, and each time I would just be so disappointed by them. But then they gave me quite a big chance for me to let them back into my life. And so I gave it to them because it gave me quite a big opportunity, and I went into it. And I was just so sorely disappointed that I made the vow to really cut them, snip them, circumcise them from my life so I don't need to be dealing with this kind of toxicity, this toxic relationship in my life. I'm going to brag about it on Facebook and Instagram and have everyone like my post and be like, oh my God, you're amazing for doing this. You were just so incredible for fucking these people off. And so I have decided, been forced to, I feel, to sever my ties, to cut out of my life my local Domino's pizza. They're no longer going to fuck with me anymore. And no, before you ask, I didn't get diarrhea from one of their pizzas. Well, so they had a customer appreciation day that I saw advertised around ubiquitously, around in the area, in the skies, in my dreams, when I close my eyes. That said something like 50% off. Like, that's it. I was like, oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, I'll get a pizza. Oh wow, 50% off. For like 1 week. So yeah, later in the week, I decided to do that. I went online. I couldn't find any like code that I needed to put in from this. Like, it was just this local one. It wasn't like any like all Domino's pizzas in the area. It was just this local one. I didn't know which code to put into the website. I rang them up and asked, and they're like, yeah, man, we got a customer appreciation week happening right now. And I was like, oh, cool, so 50% off. So I asked over the phone, I said, I'll grab a mega meat lovers. And they were like, sure, that would be like $8, whatever. And I'm like, oh, wow, it's so cheap. Oh, a whole mega meat lovers pizza for $8. Oh, wow, man, cool. So I got it all ready. I got myself ready, taking my clothes off. No, I had to go to the pizzeria for diarrhea. Anyway, so I show up at the joint, and I'm even thinking to myself, like, all right, I'm giving them the chance. I've been disappointed by Domino's before. Like, I've just been like eating the pizza, just like, it just tastes like, tastes like the bachelor lifestyle is what it tastes like. But anyway, I get there, I go in, and I was expecting it to be really busy in there. I just thought because of this 50% off, but no, there was like barely anyone there. They were like making hardly any pizzas, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm grabbing my pizza, and they bring it to me, and they're like, for David, meat lovers. And I'm like, no, it's a mega meat lovers. I'm like, nah, bro, we just got meat lovers here. I'm like, oh, seriously, man? I fucking said mega. I said mega meat lovers. I said mega man meat lovers over the phone. And I swear to God, when you said it back to me, you said mega. God damn it. I said mega with a hard R. Mega, please. For just a few seconds, I'm just like, oh, alright, fine, I'll fucking take it. So I paid for it and took it, and oh, God. Because I almost was like, no, man, I want my mega meat lovers. Make it for me now. But, like, I got to stand around for 10 minutes or whatever. I probably should have done that. But I went home, and I just... Oh, and I got it without barbecue sauce, because I feel like mega meat lovers is a bit too much with the sauce. But, oh, no, not with regular meat lovers, though. You need the sauce with that one, so fuck's sakes. So I just opened up the box when I got home, and I'm looking at it just like, oh, God, it's just bread and cheese and like a little bit of meat around. Like, I didn't even eat 4 slices of that pizza. I just took the toppings off and put them on other slices because it was just so depressing. And I made a vow at that stage, halfway through eating that fucking thing. I said, no more will I ever get Domino's pizza. I'm cutting you out of my life. And that's my rant. And I think I'm going to cut out Firefox as well. Firefox has been really shit with me just this year. Like, it's just been... Well, it fucked with me twice recently. One of them was, like, with my film review shit that I'm doing. One of them was I couldn't log into the website for some reason. It was just like, you need cookies enabled and whatever. I couldn't figure it out. But then I tried a different web browser and it works perfectly fine. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then another thing recently, someone sent me a screener of a film to watch that I had to review. And I was just like, it doesn't work. And I said that to them, emailed them. And they're like, no, it does work. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? So I put that link into another web browser and it does work. Because the one on Firefox was just saying, sorry, your video could not be found. But that exact same link in a different web browser is like, oh, here's the, password. Put in your password for it, and when you do, you get into the video. So why the fuck would Firefox not give me this shitting video? Why would it not? Man, fuck you, Firefox. And it's been shit on my phone as well, but that's probably because I have a shit phone. But hey, maybe 2 days from now, I'll finally be over this fucking phone business. I'll finally have a phone with 8 gig of RAM instead of 4, and hopefully my life will be twice as better. I've been meaning to talk about this earlier, but, I hate talking about music in an horrible way. Just being like, this sounds good and this sounds bad and whatever. But I was reminded of this because I was looking up yesterday for some reason, the best albums of the 90s. And one of the most, what's to me, overrated albums of the 90s seems to be Nirvana's Nevermind. Everyone's all about that fucking child porno album. That even though, like, if that album's esteem was replaced with In Utero, if those albums were swapped around, like, it would make sense to me. But it doesn't, because I think even Kurt Cobain would agree with me, but Nevermind just seemed to me, too polished for Nirvana's sound, not raw enough. And I was thinking about, like, the influences are a little too on the sleeve, like with the whole Pixies loud, soft dynamic between chorus and verses. Just comes across as, now that I've been listening to, recently, in the past year and a bit, listening to the Pixies properly, it just seems like the way they go about that dynamics is just too calculated in comparison to the Pixies. And also just a whole lot less fun. And just some of these songs I just don't think melodically even really work to me. They just seem like a little too tame or whatever. And they're just like, the album just seems like a lot of the songs are just caught between trying to be melodic, radio-friendly hits, but then also being like this, obviously grungy, noisy, 1,000 guitars sounding kind of thing. I just got the impression that Nevermind just had more... Nevermind sort of came across as a little bit too one note. I mean, there are a handful of good songs. There's a bit more variety on it. Like with, but I mean, I think In Utero had even more variety on it. With just some of the songs, being more, I guess you have the acoustic songs like Polly and Something in the Way. And, those songs don't just sound like regular Nirvana songs, but made acoustic. They just have their own sort of vibe going for them. But it just seems like later on in the album, like a lot of the songs to me, in a way, kind of sound the same. They're just like, yeah, angsty, but, kind of clean sounding. I don't know, they just seem a little bit more designed for, if not radio play, than these other non-single songs are kind of just designed more for like the live show, like with Drain You, where it just has such a, I suppose, rousing chorus, but only if it were in a live setting, and then having this whole breakdown section of it that, again, just seems so very calculated. There's just not as much surprise or intrigue with that album like that In Utero has. In Utero just has just going back to the soft hard Pixies influence, like it just has a more interesting way that they go about it, like on that album with what's it called, Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. I always really dug that song, and that song to me melodically just comes across as so much more interesting, especially in the chorus. And I think with the production and the mix on it as well, it's the right amount of raw rather than just being like a nice sort of polished little thing. I mean, some of the songs on Nevermind, they just come across as like, I guess, Stay Away and Territorial Pissings, I think, just sort of have like punk, but made to be, I don't know, a little bit more approachable. It's just got that feeling, and I just don't think like this album. I think people just look at it. I think it's overrated because it just gets this praise as being, you know, the seminal grunge album that came out at the exact right time in like towards the end of '91, and then set things off for, you know, the mid to late-ish or mid. No, wait, the early to mid '90s or late '90s with this whole like grunge scene, and that was the album that kind of like kickstarted it all, and that's what it's remembered for. And I think it's all just coming from that one song that they had, "Smells Like Teen Spirit," which, okay, I guess, I don't know, that song is just one of those songs that's just so, like, I liked it more as a kid, but it's just been like so, I don't know, overplayed, and it's just so in my head that I can't. Maybe I've just taken like too much out of it, but I can't deny it that it is quite a good song. But again, maybe it's just got too much of a calculated production to it. Like everything just seems a little too perfect with it, even with all like any kind of imperfections in it. But I think this is why the album is just regarded so much, because the album that paved the way for like this genre to become so incredibly mainstream and you know, popular and very commercial and really part of the culture. But it doesn't really, but I just don't think I look back on it like it is one of the better albums of the grunge scene, because obviously In Utero I just have always preferred more, and I've always found to be basically song for song a much better album, something that's just more interesting, that has like, you know, some more experimental flourishes that really like add to it. And I guess I've been thinking, because, yeah, I kept seeing Nevermind as, like, you know, being listed as one of the best albums of the 90s in, like, whatever lists you're finding online. And I was thinking about how, so, good old Pitchfork, they had it as one of the top 10 albums of the decade. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, oh, well, they got In Utero at, like, 13 or something. But then on their recent list, now it's, like, number 15. And Hole's Live Through This is further up as like number 7 and whatever. And I'm looking at the new any new Pitchfork list that comes out. I'm just like, oh, they just put more women and black people on it, and that's it. And if they already were on it, they just got brought up higher. I mean, that's all there is to that. I mean, they might as well say it before they release like all their lists, you know. I mean, there should be. It comes across as very transparent. But I am looking at that though, like, if they weren't doing that kind of thing, then I think Nevermind would still be higher than Live Through This. But to my ears, listening to Hole over the past couple of years as well, I reckon, yeah, that's certainly a better album. It's certainly, I would put that above Nevermind, but below In Utero. But then I'd put Hole's Celebrity Skin above In Utero. We'll get to that in a sec. I started listening to Hole because one of my friends lent me a book called like Love and Death, and it's about how Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain. And I was like, you know, well, let's see if this convinces me to become a conspiracy theorist on that whole thing. And I read it, and I was like, very compelling. And I'd say before I believed Kurt Cobain killed himself, and after reading that book, I'm like, I don't know what to think now. I think after reading that book, I'm now convinced that 9/11 was conducted by George Bush and his old cronies and Courtney Love. But it just seems like whenever someone gets cancelled, I'm like, oh yeah, I should listen to their music. So I started listening to Hole, and I was immediately taken by them. And I think the big difference between them and Nirvana is the lyrical content, because Nirvana's lyrics are they fucking suck. He's just like, oh, I've got gastro coming out of a baby abortion. It's just all this like, you know, yeah, he's like, oh, I love William S. Burroughs, you know, I just write a bunch of things on a piece of paper while I'm high, and I just stick it all together, and that's the song and whatever. Yeah, it's a little more on the abstract side, but it doesn't really. I got fun. Okay, there's just some semblance of. There is some like solidness to and coherence to some of the lyrics, and sometimes it can just come across like, you just want a good line for a verse or for a chorus, and yeah, I guess Kurt Cobain with Nirvana had some of that, and I'd say more so if In Utero, I think his writing style was like improving from album to album, I'd say. Another reason why In Utero is better. But I feel like it's hard to get a gauge emotionally on the songs and on the albums, and I feel like it's mostly the music that does the speaking. But with Live Through This, I feel like Courtney Love has a better handle on the lyrics and what she actually wants to say and what she wants to convey and get through emotionally, song to song. And so I can even feel like maybe the music isn't as good as, musically, it's sometimes not as good as, at least In Utero. I can emotionally get on a higher level with it. Like, I think Live Through This, yeah, maybe some of the songs, some of the choruses, kind of like with Nevermind. They got that kind of dull, not that melodically great kind of sound. But it sounds more like In Utero because it has less of a polished production through it. And that's not the case with good old Celebrity Skin, which I decided to, give a real listen to, and I'm pretty floored by. And it's an album where, okay, this isn't on the more grungy side, and it's not at all even like a noise rock album like Hole's first album. I feel like it's a much more. This is where like having a polished production actually kind of really benefits the album. It gives it more of its grandeur, and that's where. And the songwriting from Love is just really now getting on the emotional side, and it all makes sense because of because she's her guilt over killing and mourning over killing her husband. So I mean, Live Through This came out like it was all made, and it came out only a couple of weeks after Cobain had died. It was murdered, but then it's like 4 years after that she creates this album in that mourning and murderous guilt. Maybe because of that kind of context, it makes me emotionally gravitate towards the album more. I don't know. Maybe I'd like to think, because I've listened to it quite a few times now, and I just think song after song, it just has such an intense emotionality behind it all. And I think there isn't exactly any room for any of that kind of noisy, like the noise rock grunginess or experimentation, because it is despite all the misery and depression with the album, there are a lot of like lighter times, and it wants to kind of come across as like there's been this whole devastation, personal devastation, but it's like the album is coming through on a cleaner side after it all. And that's why it kind of like leans in more to like a rock pop sensibility and genre. And it really pays off for it, because I just think it's an outstanding, like, in terms of melodically and with the hooks and with just the production style of it all just seems so perfectly placed. And, not to say that it's like, a cheery pop album, but it's kind of coming from such a dark place, but is like finally just starting to merge into a kind of lightness. And that's what the album kind of sounds and represents to me, and I think it just accomplishes that so damn well right from the start to the end, even though the ending song is like pretty depressing and is one of the more, it does end the album on a more depressing note, but I think there's a little bit of room for that at the end with that. So that's my ranking of the whole Nirvana albums. Going with, maybe it's just talking. Maybe it says something about my tastes these days. I don't think so. But like going with something a little less experimental, like with In Utero, I'd rather go for something like Celebrity Skin. But because of that, it gets its whole mood and point across much better. And going along with that, like speaking of the good old Pixies and everything, I mean, yeah, I had this written down to talk about them because I'd been going for them, kind of giving them a more proper listen to. And I don't know about you, but I'm a real. This is just contrarian me, as usual, like I've been talking about just now. But I feel like with the only albums they released, that Bossa Nova and Trompe Le Monde are better than Surfer Rosa and Doolittle. Yeah, that's right. Everyone's like, oh my god, two of the greatest albums of the 80s. Oh, the other two aren't so bad. But nah, man. Get the fuck out of here with that. I don't know, and I even listened to like Doolittle. I tried listening to it like more thoroughly when I was like 10 years ago or something. It wasn't like really getting through it. There was like just a handful of songs here and there that I was enjoying. But maybe it was just because they were going for all these like different styles like of music, of like certain rock genres, but some of them were just changing up so much from song to song. I don't know, it makes it more of it definitely gives it more variety, but I wouldn't say it just makes the album, or at least the songs, like sound as really enjoyable to listen to or as successful for what they got to be as they should be. So I'm more a fan of like Trompe Le Monde, which has not as much variety in terms of genre, but maybe variety in terms of like how the songs sound and their rhythm and how fast or slow they are and how much they're trying to get like their point across. And I also just feel like that album, like with how quick the songs usually are and how short they can be, they can just that album has like such a great flow from one song to the other. Like I always love, I gotta do it again now. Like always love like listening to that album as a whole. Like we're in whatever situation I am, because it just flows so damn well. It's just got such great sequencing to it, and just makes it sound like such a kind of whole, complete album rather than a bunch of songs like Doolittle sounds to me. Look, like there's certainly all sorts of excellent stuff on the likes of Surfer Rosa and Doolittle, but I mean, and Surfer Rosa has like a bunch of stuff in it, like some tracks, like what is it, Vamonos or whatever it's called, that just has just like a wacky drum beat and then just some like experimental guitars over the top. I'm like, oh yeah, who cares? And then there's a bunch of in-studio banter as well, just to pad out this album to even longer. Like I could really go without that as well. And then I would say Bossa Nova is the album with more sort of solid, concrete singles, like just more accessible rock songs that sound so great. And man, just talking about it just makes me want to get like back into it and listen to it again. But as I say, what am I supposed to say about like songs? Like, oh, this song sounds nice and this one sounds crap and I don't like these lyrics and blah blah blah. So but I don't know how to stick like my ranking of the Pixies album amongst the whole and Nirvana albums. So I hear there was an election recently. I hear there was the big fight. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris squaring off in the octagon. Cage fight. 1 round only. No stopping until someone gets KO'd. Hopefully Netflix can actually fucking stream it right this time. Look, I got more important things to be talking about right now, but I recently, somewhat recently, well, ages ago, I bought on Facebook Marketplace, looking for Simpsons shit. I found something that took my interest for some reason. And it was some Simpsons DVD bootlegs. They look like bootlegs to me. Actually, no, I don't think they really look like bootlegs. They just look to me like I thought they might have been bootlegs, but all they really are, all I might have thought they've been, were like Chinese. I think it's Chinese versions of Simpsons box sets. So I thought, all right, fuck it, I'll buy a couple then. They didn't seem too expensive. So I went along and got some, and actually I got them all, and it's interesting how they look. It's just interesting the whole like style of boxes that they have. So I mean, this feels crusty and everything. It feels Krusty the Clown. What's with the back on this? Ugh. Anyway, yeah, they seem It's strange. They seem cheap and like very nice and expensive at the same time. So I'm looking for like, so this third season here, this looks kind of like the third season that that got released in Australia and everywhere else in the world, right? The Western world. It looks the same. It's got kind of like a texture to the front, which is nice. But then like you slide off the box and inside it's just the DVDs and they're just loose in a cardboard box. So that's what was making me thinking, oh, this might be bootleg. But I mean, generally speaking, it's just got a bunch of Chinese shit written on the back. And then some of them kind of look weirder. Like now I'm looking at, I don't even know which season this is. It doesn't say. I think it's free. But like, it's a different kind of cover now because it isn't just, it's like the family running to the couch and then they've got like a bunch of characters behind it. And it's just like a weird graphic on the front that just has like a bunch of different names of the episodes on it. And then on the back is another image of the Simpsons on the couch, but the image is stretched. So that's another very clear indicator of it being a bootleg. And then this one definitely gives it away because we have the family. The family, they buy the couch, but this looks like, it doesn't look like it was made by the actual production team. It looks like it was made by someone else as part of the bootleg. And they've fucked up so much. Like Marge's hair is green. Her dress is like orange red. And I don't know, they just like look kind of weirder to me. Oh, and then you got like pixelated and wrongly colored screenshots on the back. So yeah, I mean it's strange. Like some of them have like the exact design that the actual season box sets had in this country, but then some of them just look like completely different. They just have like a completely different front image to them. So I was looking at it, wondering, well, I wonder if they appear to be bootlegs, but like, but then again, there's like this indication that they're not because I'm looking over like stuff on the back and it's got like copyright and it says 20th Century Fox. So I think if they're certainly bootlegs. I know they are. When I started putting the DVDs in and watching them, not properly watching them, just to see what they fucking look like, you can see like they have a stamp of like the official like distributor of these DVDs, but when it's not, it sounds like a serious crime. So I'm just realizing like one of these has on the front, it says, "On your marks, get set, dough, putting the fun back in dysfunctional. Just a product of society that's lost its good manners." I remember when they said that on The Simpsons. Maybe they did. So putting in the DVDs, some of them are like just direct copies of the official DVD. So they have like the main menu and the special features and everything. But then some of them, they have instead just like the list of episodes, and that's all you get. There's no special features. So I click on them. They're like real dog shit quality, like super low quality. But they also have like a watermark like at the bottom or in the corner of the screen. And I think that's like a watermark of like when they were broadcast on TV. So they're like torrents really of the show. They're like TV rip torrents. And sometimes when it goes to an ad break, it like edits weird. It'll just like cut like in a startling way rather than just, that kind of smooth, just going to black of the official DVDs. So yeah, that's what I paid this fucking money for. I think I spent $10. I went over because this lady was selling them. It's just like old lady. She was talking to me like, oh yeah, you'll enjoy The Simpsons, or now you got the box sets. And I'm like, I didn't mention it, but I've already got the actual box sets of this fucking thing. I'm just getting this out of a horrible curiosity. But then when I got there, she was saying, I was like, oh, can I get just these free? And she's like, oh, no, I want to sell them all at once. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, you didn't mention that in the fucking listing on Marketplace. And then, like, she said it was $12, but I only had 10, so she accepted that. So that's all fine. So, yeah, $10 for, like, 6 box sets? Man, I should have fucking paid $3 for all these, given how dog shit the quality is. And just... This is one of the more, like... I'm not much of a Simpsons collector. I'm not just going to, like, buy all sorts of shit. I just sometimes, like to look through it. on Marketplace and just sometimes fantasize about buying shit. But this one, it lured me in. And she also had Seinfeld box sets that were in the same way. And now I'm like interested, like, whoa. I wish they were more fucked up. I thought they were going to be like Chinese dubs that you couldn't like turn off or turn back into English. That's what I was hoping for, or like hard-coded subtitles. But no, I got nothing along those lines. So fuck me. Alright, well, time for me to go. Time for me to go to bed now. No, I'll be going. I'm working on some things at the moment. I'm working on a short film right now, and I'm trying to get shit done for it and everything. And you know, it's just taking so long. You know, that's mostly my fault. I've just been lazy with it and everything. I'm like, oh, you know, because like it all seemed very proper. Like I haven't made like a real short film. Maybe with some friends. I guess we used to do YouTube videos and stuff, and we get kind of shit like that going. But now I've got like, you know, I'm just getting more and more like proper equipment, like with like, you know, obviously a camera, and I got these like lapels that I'm not too sure about, the Rode ones, but I don't know if they sound too great, and I'm kind of worried about that. And now I've got like lights as well, so I'll see how they go. Just some very cheap LED ones. And like just getting this piece of equipment and that thing and this thing, and it's like this costs $50 and that costs $50. I'm like, oh god, you know. And then I did like auditions with a friend of mine, so we had that going for like 3 hours. So we had to spend money to like hire out a venue for that, and like a whole bunch of people showed up, and it's like, oh man, you know. And that was all its own thing. But it was good to do that and like record everyone and then get back to them like ages later, like, oh yeah, you like the role, and having to like change casting and this and that. I mean, the film I'm working on is 20 pages long, so it's like, oh shit, man, I got a lot to do, and it's like I got a lot to, I don't know, light and record, and had to find a location, which I finally found, but I can't use it until the weekend after next, so hopefully I get it done then, and people are available for then, which I'm sure they will. But I've only got 4 cast members in the film. I mean, the script's done and everything. I just been working on the script for some time. It used to be in a feature film that I was trying to write, and I couldn't get the feature film to work. But the start of the film and the end of the film, like, worked for me. I kept thinking about them, so I decided to just stick them two together and kind of smooth it out with rewriting and created just a short film out of that. So that's where I got the 20 pages from. But I just couldn't get like the story to move the way I wanted to, and I kept rewriting shit, and I don't like rewriting, because if I keep rewriting something, like really properly going over it over and over and changing like how this scene goes to there and how this story moves and everything, I start to think like this isn't natural for me, like this isn't coming out naturally, so I just think I'm never going to get it right. So that's why I gave up on that screenplay. I was like, oh, it's fine, I've written enough of it or whatever, and at least I got something out of it now that I'm trying to actualize. I'm trying to realize it. I am trying to realize it as a realizator. So yeah, shit, it's a lot. And yeah, I did like, you know, what was it? Not really auditions, but just like working with the actors, just getting like line readings, like rehearsals, I should be saying. And one of the actors was asking like, what's the budget of this so far? And I'm like, oh, I don't really know, because I guess I'm spending money like on this thing and that thing for the film, like in terms of props. Like, oh man, you know, gotta have this show up in the mail and buy this, and oh god, I still need to get that and everything. I gotta trying to borrow this and that off people. But you know, in terms of camera equipment, I'm not sure. I mean, very expensive, I suppose, because of how much my camera cost and the lenses and getting this thing, and like I'm getting a new phone, and that's gonna be like the one of the props in the film as well, I suppose. I mean, does that count? But you know, it's in terms of all these costs together, not including camera costs, I guess, because I'm using that for other shit as well, YouTube stuff. I think, you know, it's got to be like a few hundred, I'd say, and I'm not even done yet. But it's going to be a few hundred by the time I'm done. So luckily, I'm not paying myself, and I can just do quite a lot of stuff on my own. But I do need the actors, and I need the location, and hopefully the sound sounds good ultimately. Otherwise, I'm like, oh god, you know, just try and like I put it on like the lowest setting, and it still sounds just to me. So fuck, I don't want to ADR shit. But you know, like filming is easy. You know, all you got to do is just once you got the script done, you just put the actors in front of the camera, light them, have them in their location, and then you start filming, and you can just like feed them the lines, it's easy, because I've been storyboarding shit and everything, and I'm trying to get the shot list like schedule done for the days, so I got to do that. And once you do all that, you just go through that, like bang, 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 just recording them in front of the camera, and once you got it, you've got it, and now you can just edit it, so it's easy, as long as you don't have to do a whole big thing with like a swooping crane camera and a bunch of cars exploding and squibs and motorcycle going off a ramp and everything. Like, that takes like a whole day to get like organized and shoot, even just one time. But with just like, actors talking and everything, it should be fucking easy. It should be fucking easy, mate. Fucking easy. Making a film, fuck, piece of piss, mate. Oh, let's see how it all is. Fuck, I should probably start working on some like shorter films as well and get some actors for that, and that could be a way of. That should have been the way of me getting more experience and trying to like figure out, getting it shot properly and everything. I just don't want any clipping in the audio. I'm still trying to figure it out. Anyway, that's been my complaining and bitching and moaning for the week. And I will see you all next week in the next episode.